And in one of my previous videos, I mentioned installing a transcooler into my 1991 Lexus LS400. I thought it was gonna take a lot longer before I got to this, but I actually have all the parts in right now. I got almost every single one of my parts from Jegs except for this. I got this from Jegs as well, and my actual transcooler itself. This transcooler I got is from TrueCool. The reason why I got this one is because it has an LPD system in it, is what I believe it's called. And what that does is, because I live in Montana, the temperatures get down really, really cold. And during the winter, I still want to be able to drive this car. But when it's negative 22 degrees outside, I do not want to be cooling the already extremely cold fluid. So what I did was I got this cooler for that reason. Inside of it, there's some type of valve. I'm not exactly sure where at and how it works. But essentially, from my understanding, is when the fluid is really, really cold, it will basically just bypass the cooler and it'll just go straight through and come out the other end and won't actually go through all the fins. But when as the fluid starts to heat up between, I think, at about 180 degrees, it starts opening up and it starts allowing the fluid to go all the way through the cooler. And once it hits 200, then it's completely opened up and at its max cooling capacity. But I'm hoping that it doesn't actually end up reaching up to 200 degrees, especially with a cooler of this size. I understand that this cooler is absolutely massive and probably overkill, but this is the smallest one they had because they use these coolers more for overlanding and big pickups and towing and stuff like that, but they did say it could be used for daily use vehicles as well. I don't think I'll have any problems with fitting it. It's only like 13 inches wide, so it's not absolutely awful. I mean, it's still massive, but I think it'll do the job just fine. But in this video, I'm gonna focus a lot more on installing my temperature gauge and running all the wires for that and actually getting that working. I understand that it's gonna be a lot bigger of a task to actually install the oil cooler and get all that hooked up. So I'm just gonna install the temperature gauge for now so I can at least keep an eye on my temperatures and make sure that nothing's getting way too hot. And I also think it's gonna look really, really cool inside of my interior. And the idea that I have for my gauge is to install it right here. So it's kind of out of view, but it's also in a really, really convenient spot. I think it's gonna look super, super cool. And then I'll run the wires off the side and come down into the dash and go all the way up underneath, go around and come back out into the engine bay where I ran my speaker wire, or my power wire for my subs going to the trunk. Getting ready to run all this basically speaker wire through. I'm going to have a lot more protecting stuff over it, but right now I actually need to get it through into the interior. I have a hole right there where I had my speaker wire. It's not the cleanest thing in the world and I'm not proud of it at all, to be honest. I'm kind of upset about it, but I think I'll be okay to still run this through as long as I put some protective loom tape over it as it's going through the interior so it doesn't cut itself on the firewall or anything like that. Luckily, when I did drill that hole quite a while ago, I didn't damage the wiring harness and I was okay, but kind of sketchy, not really happy about it, but it is what it is at this point. You can't really see it anyways. So I finally got the wires ran for the temperature gauge. This is where it came out at. And then I tucked them up underneath right there, go all the way across the dash underneath, through that hole that I was talking about. And now they're out through here. We just now got the interior put back together and yeah, I'm pretty excited to get started on this. All right, we got all the wires ran except for the actual temp gauge, which we will do that another night, but we got the power to it. I am grounding it down there. And then I got the power wire connected into my LED strip lights here and ran up through the dash. Not the most beautiful wiring at all. I kept messing up a bunch of times, but it works. That looks super, super, super good. And then, so it's on max brightness here. And then looking at it, once I turn on my headlights, it dims. You can kind of see the difference on video, but since we hooked it up to my headlights, we were able to put a dimming feature on it. I think that's super, super cool. I'm super, super excited about it. The sticky piece on the bottom though, did not stick well at all. So I'm gonna have to get some 3M stuff so it'll actually stick on there. But I think that location is super, super nice and like at least from where I'm driving. And I think it'll look good and it'll look sleek. I'm super, super happy with how it turned out. Now today I'm actually going to install my T-fitting into my hose so I can actually get a reading on what temperature my fluid is. And from this diagram right here, it's not going to be too hard, and it's on the same side that I'm running my other wire for my headlights. So I think it'll be easy to just poke out of that hole. I'll be able to just poke out of the hole, come down through here, and I should be able to just drop straight down as long as I have some sort of protecting piece on it, and I should be able to access the hose. I'm thinking I'll just cut the hose in half and then shove the T-fitting in there. I don't think it'll be too bad once I get the car jacked up. I'm very happy it's not in an absolutely awful place. I'm still slightly concerned on where I'm going to actually put that cooler at. I've heard some other people talking about a couple other different places, but I'll have to do some more looking around and actually figure out where I want to put that. If you guys have any suggestions on where I can actually mount that cooler, please let me know. I'm not sure what the best place for airflow and actual space would be, and if I need to cut something out so it would fit in there better. But yeah, I'm now getting to the exciting part, and I'm gonna put something over all these wires to make them look better, some sort of protective coating, and so it's not mismatched colors as well. So before I'd actually taken a look at this, I figured that it would be hardline all the way up to the transmission. I'd never done this before, so I never took a guess at anything. I just knew there was hardline back there, so I figured it was hardline going into the radiator as well. But this right here, this is the inlet going into the radiator, or at least oil cooler, and then this is the outlet. And what I'll be doing is I will be tapping into the outlet hose, and I'm thinking I'll just cut it in half and then shove the T-fitting in there and try to run the wire the best I can up back into the car, so I could try to keep it protected the best I can from the heat and also rocks. I'm probably gonna put the undercover back on here so there's less things that actually hit it, but I'm thinking I'll just cut that in half and put the T-fitting inside of there. Alright, the T-fitting is installed. There's a slight aggressive-ish bend right there. I don't think that's gonna cause any problems though, like kinking or anything like that. But yeah, she's in there and she's tight. Hopefully there's no leaks, but we'll definitely test everything before I keep driving on it and put the cover back up. But I'm thinking that it'll be all right. I just cut a little bit of hose, got that much, and there's another section I cut that much. So good couple inches cut off, and I just tried to squeeze that in there the best that I could. And if it does leak, I have plenty of hose that I could put on there instead and just do that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Yeah, I lied. I didn't like that connection at all. This T-fitting is actually bigger than the gap between these two nipples here. So I was kind of just jamming it in there. What we might end up doing, there is no T-fittings in town that will fit. We might end up cutting it back here or maybe over here and putting another nipple farther back so we can fit more tubing in there, and then the T-fitting could sit right over here and it'll look a lot better and there will be a lot more flow. I'm thinking that what I had going on before was causing a lot of restriction. I mean, it probably would have worked, but I definitely did not want to do that. Here's the wire that will be going to that temperature. I haven't trimmed it or anything yet because we haven't put the T-fitting in yet, but yeah, that's kind of the idea right now. In the next clip, I'll show you what we ended up figuring out. So I did end up changing it quite a bit. Instead of going straight from this nipple straight to this nipple, I came off and made a loop so it's not so kinked, and I was able to actually mount it here pretty good, like it's not moving anywhere. And then I ran the wire to it, tightened it on there, and then I looped it back around over here. Just put a piece of wire on here. I mean, it doesn't look amazing, but I'm never ever gonna see it again. As long as it works and it's stable in place, I don't really care. As it might be obvious that I'm an apprentice electrician using a bunch of Romex wire to tighten shit down. Anyways, just looped it around and came back into it. I think this will be a lot better than what I had going on before. It'll be a lot less restrictive, that's for sure, and I don't think it'll stop anything, and I should be able to get an accurate reading. So now all there is left to do is start the car up and make sure that there isn't any leaks. As of right now, there are no leaks anywhere. I can't see anything. I'm thinking I'm gonna be all right. Awesome. Now I'll just be able to put the plastic cover up underneath to make sure nothing gets nicked up underneath of here, and I should be good to go. I am super, super happy with that. I'm glad that worked out. And my trans temp gauge is working, so that's pretty sick. I'm excited about that. Let's see how well it reads as we keep on going. I also made all the wiring that's running down here a lot more neat, so you can't really see it, and it's a lot more similar to the power wire for my subs, so it kind of just matches. I think since it's black, it blends in pretty well. The only thing I don't really like is that little bit of color showing there, but I don't mind it too much, it's whatever. But I'm pretty happy with the routing going underneath of here and underneath the intake and then making its way down there. And I don't think I'll run into any problems, and if I do, then I guess that's my fault. I'll figure it out. But super, super happy with it turned out. I'm gonna go on a test drive and see how the gauge works and make sure that nothing ends up getting too hot in the wiring loom or anything like that. So my temp gauge is working just perfectly. My temps are staying pretty good as of now. It was only sitting at about 130, but then I accelerated pretty fast going down my driveway, and it's been going up ever since. I mean, it's kind of chilling now at about 156. At least now I'll have the peace of mind of keeping an eye on my temp gauge, even if I'm not getting too hot. But during the winter now, I'm not too concerned at all that it's going to be getting too hot. It's when the summer hits and it gets up to the high 90s. I'm a little bit more worried that my trans is going to be getting a little bit hot. So for now, I'm just going to stick with this. And once I actually see my temperatures going up a little bit out of my comfortability, then I'll end up installing my trans cooler. But for now, this will be it. I'm expecting that the stickiness will come undone once the summer hits as well, and I'll end up having to screw that into the dash, but it looks really, really good as of now. My LED lights are installed, my interior is super clean, and I'm just gonna drive it for a while. I'm super, super happy with it.